So in this video, I'm going to be designing some concepts for new characters, specifically an ice-type line for the world of pieces. But first, before I get started, let me explain how all of this happened. So about 6 years ago, when I was younger, I came up with the idea for pieces. I was a big fan of Pokemon, and I thought it'd be fun to come up with my own sort of game inspired by that. But I tried to make it my own sort of game. I started with the rules of chess, and that didn't work out so well. So I adapted the rules, and Pieces slowly became the game it does today. I came up with my own list of 100 characters, but what I realized later is that I didn't spend much time putting good work and concepts, so I have this whole world of 100 creatures. Some of them turned out pretty well, especially when I later went and made cards for the card game. I was able to think more about what I wanted each one to be. And like Katawag, the one in the lo-fi video, Katawag's just awesome. And then some of them are just, yeah, I'm looking at you, Keeper. So recently, I actually finally finished making cards of all 100 characters, and I thought, what if I made a reboot of sorts of Pieces and started over with a whole new list of 100 creatures? But this time, I wanted to put a lot more work and effort into really making these designs as good as I could before I finalized the list. So I went and I made some sketches of some possible new characters, some basic, fun, powerful, but beginner characters that would be an entry point into the world of Pieces that were fun mascots for the world. And I drew them as sketches on paper, and while they're kind of cool, I especially like the sword line. A lot of them are really lacking detail, lacking interesting, lacking, just generally lacking in design. So I decided to go ahead and draw them on Procreate and see how can I make this design work. So for Eskii, I went and asked Midjourney AI to draw Eskii for me and see what I could do. I wasn't planning on using it, but then it made this, and I was just so amazed. I was like, wow, I have to use this. So I ended up making a card out of it. Especially what it helped me with is instead of making it just plain on the back, I decided to add the little dots, the little glittery scales to all the line, which doesn't make much sense for a salamander to have scales, but salamanders don't have ice powers either way. So I worked on the concept, I came up with a couple ideas for a description or flavor text, and then I went ahead and started drawing. And the other thing I've realized is after having watched people make videos of Fakemon designs and their own character designs, I realized what really helps them is getting feedback and improving on the characters. Going through several drafts, starting with just a basic first draft, and then thinking about it, working on it, improving it slowly, bit by bit by bit. And that's really what I try and do with these characters, and this is why I ended up making this video. So let's start with Eskii. When I thought about Eskii, what I eventually settled on for sort of its personality and its quirk was that it's a salamander, so it would be cold-blooded, but perhaps it's literally cold-blooded and needs cold blood to work. So this is the sort of description I settled on for Eskii. It has a unique circulatory system that needs to be in sub-zero temperatures to function efficiently, so it secretes freezing fluids from its skin that evaporate to cool itself down. People find this ability useful as Eskii can cool down other objects such as drinking water. It's often grumpy during warm weather as it has to spend more energy to maintain its body temperature, so people should pay attention to its mood. Fortunately, modern technology allows for temperature-controlled environments in many areas, and many owners of Eskii bring portable fans to make their pieces happy. I have to say, having a little description of the character made it so much more easy to think about what was going on, and it made it such a fun little personality, and it really helped me when I went and draw the further levels. So for Iskiita, I really wanted to take what I had done with Eskii, and you can see I did a little bit of brainstorming on the document, and really take it to the logical next step. So I tried a few different ways of drawing it, and the hardest part to get was its eyes. I really wanted to make it seem like it's really weak and lazy in the hot weather, and that's the biggest part of its personality. so I decided to work on them. But getting its face right was really, really hard. Eventually, I worked on it and I settled on a design. I tried this other design and I actually really, really like it, but it doesn't really show what makes Iskiita unique. It just looks like a happy lizard, kind of, with scales on its back. So, as much as I like the other one, I might go back to it. I eventually settled on doing this one. So I went ahead and I added my line work, and adding the line work actually helped. I feel like I got the eye quite kind of right, and I started adding the colors, the same colors as Eskii, and I started drawing the scales with a snowflake brush, and I realized that was a mistake because it's supposed to be like a simple design, but it ended up being looking really messy. And also its head was way too big, so I went ahead and I made the head a little smaller and like put the colors all back in and shaded it. And the character looked better with the head smaller. It made a lot more sense that way. And I also had the idea to make its paws a fade between the colors with little stripes like that. So after I finished the shading, I went ahead and added in the white dots as direct dots and less as a bunch of random shapes. And I worked on its eye. I like how its eye has a little black part around it. It really makes it look more like a actual, like, it kind of brings his personality out. It's kind of like, I don't know what to describe that as, but it really makes the character work. So here's what I have for Iskiita. Although it has now more powerful cooling organs, Iskiita's longer body is much harder to cool, and so it is even more dependent on the weather. If it is outdoors under a hot sun, it will start to get lazy and even refuse to obey its owners. If the glittery scales on its back start to become dull, that means the Iskiita is seriously overheated and it should get immediate attention. Still, this piece has powerful ice powers, and it gets along well with humans when it's happy. So then for the final stage, Iciir, I really wanted to take everything I had done with the first two and just take it to the next level. I really wasn't sure how I'd do that. I had my original sketch, but again, it was very plain. Until I had the idea that maybe it's actually better now at controlling its temperature, and I thought the little fins type pattern on its back could be something like rabbit ears and dog ears, or that help it cool down by releasing temperature out through the extended part. So I went ahead and I started drawing. I tried a few different ways. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be the more like dinosaur big kind of design like this, or like a longer snake design. Like, I don't know if I added one other set of legs. It was really hard to get it to feel like a coherent like character more than the others were. I tried like making it longer. It just ended up looking kind of weird. So eventually, I just kind of went with the sort of cross between the first design and the second design. I also wasn't sure what to do with its arms. I eventually just had it have like full on like giant hands pointed right at you and like extended towards the camera, which kind of looked cool when I started going. But as I went farther, it got less and less clear what was going on. I really wasn't sure how to fix it though, and it was the only thing I had drawn so far that actually like worked to design. I also tried like curving the tail, but I mean, that just complicated the design more than it had to be, so I just had it continue straight and just curve up a little. So I went and added in the line work, and I could tell it wasn't going to be perfect, but I feel like I got the perspective of the character mostly right, and I really like the extra white section around its jaw. It made it look like more of a like a has a shell, which isn't entirely what it's supposed to look like, but it makes the character's like head look more than just like a blob that happens to be like stripes on it. I went ahead and made little brown circles on its paws as sort of like, I don't know, like a pad that maybe has is where like the icy fluid is, and it can use it to actually attack is the little pad under its paw. Unfortunately, it looks like a giant flower, and having the other paw or foot really helps with that effect and to make it look more like a foot, but still it looks kind of like a giant flower on its color. I went ahead and added on the dots, and they were good, and I added on the shading, and I'm overall happy with the way like its overall shape and the way its design turned out. But I feel like the design really could be made better. I'm really not sure what I think of it. It's a fitting end to the Eskii line, but I don't know. What do you all think of this iteration of Iciir? But anyways, here's what I have written down for it. Iciir. It is said to be the coldest piece in the entire world, literally. It has much better control over its blood temperature, and even in summer it has little trouble. It is especially fond of winter sports and can even pick up on basic rules if its owner puts in the effort to teach it. I toyed with the idea of making its paws look like hockey sticks. It didn't end up. I couldn't imagine how that would actually look though, so I kept it out of this first draft. Although its personality is often cold among strangers, it is difficult to gain its trust, and Iciir is quite friendly with people it knows. Some people consider it more thawing than frozen. So here they are, Eskii, Iskiita, and Iciir. I'm quite happy with how they turned out. It's a coherent design. They're obviously the next level, and it's not just like pretty. It's not just like basic. They actually have their own unique little traits, and they get obviously bigger and stronger. But then again, like they're still quite plain. I feel like I'm happy with the design of Eskii as like the standard guy, but I feel like there are other directions I could take this that would make it really improved. So I'm really curious to know what you all have to think about it, and I'm excited on making another draft. This is just the first draft. I feel like there's a lot more I could take this line, and I'm really excited to see how this new set of pieces characters turns out. I feel like I can really make it more coherent and overall a better set of characters, and this is a good beginning for that. So I'm really excited to see where the world of pieces is going to go from here. I have a bunch of fun ideas that I've started working on, and I'll be back for more videos in the future. So thank you for watching this video. I'm really curious to know what you all have to say.